rushing to close the project. So we've all been there. This scenario is that you've got a displaced homeowner who is super anxious. They've been waiting, in this case, sometimes a year or more to get into their house, and they may be living in a temporary situation. Sometimes they're living in the basement of their parents, and they've got 4 kids, and they're literally pulling their hair out. And so the call comes in and says, "Hey, is there anything you can do where we can move up the closing date? We really need to get in here," for whatever they're going to give you, whatever excuse needed. And it's legitimate. I mean, legitimately, I've been there too. That they are absolutely frazzled by living in a temporary home. So out of our goodwill, we say, "Oh, I'll see what I can do," right? And so we try to pull some strings and move some things up and get our certificate of occupancy, and so they can move into the job. But of course, what happens is that our punch list now becomes this long, and when it becomes that long, now we have the challenge of rushing back in to get it to get things done. So the problem, of course, with this is we've got a client that becomes very frustrated after the fact because we try to do them a favor by getting them in the home earlier, but it comes back and it bites us because now they're completely frustrated by us not getting the punch list items completed. Well, why isn't this done? Why isn't that done? Why isn't this done? And of course, as a builder, you lose all your negotiation power, once you pay your trade or give them that final payment for what they've done. So if you close a job out, you're going to cut your checks and pay them, and now you're relying on the goodwill. Much better. Again, this, as far as the solution goes to this, much better to stick to your guns. Number one, you have to be disciplined. You have to say no. And I use this formula that I learned in management school a long time ago. It's called USA. Have I shared this with you,
No, no,
Deanna?
I'm curious.
Okay, so
What?
USA. So when a customer calls you up and they say, "Hey, Diana, can we get into the home, a couple weeks earlier, just because we're going nuts, we're losing our lease, we got to move." The USA goes like this: U stands for understand. I understand how you feel,
Okay.
and completely empathize with your situation. The S stands for the status of the situation. So the situation is we
It's
need to
bad.
keep the original schedule so so we can get everything punched up and we're not crawling over you guys after you've moved in, and we don't lose our leverage with our trades to get the project completed. And then the A stands for alternative. So the alternative is, you might say, like we used to do once in a while, is we had a garage move-in agreement, and so what we would say is, look, if you need a place to store your stuff, what we can do is we can get a CO for the garage. Some municipalities allow us to get a certificate of occupancy for the garage. Then we would have a garage move-in agreement. We would allow them to store their things in the garage. That would take it. It wasn't what they wanted, but it was a compromise. And so we would do things like that. The alternative is this. So you kind of just look for ways of where you could help them in their situation without moving the schedule, so you could get those things done. So USA, I understand how you're feeling. The situation is this, but here's an alternative of something that we could do. And then if they keep pushing back, you just keep repeating that over and over and over. And they can't get mad at you because, number one, you're recognizing their feelings, you're acknowledging their feelings with saying, "I understand how you feel." You just relay the reality of the situation. You know that they don't know that if we are stepping all over you guys and trying to schedule trades to come back in, and everyone's like, "Well, I don't want you coming in my house unless we have somebody home. I don't want your trades coming back in there." And so you're trying to schedule around their schedule. You're scheduling around your trade schedule. It's a nightmare. We know how much it does not work. So you just have to be disciplined, stick to your guns. And what happens, of course, is that if you let them in early, they get frustrated. All of a sudden, they break trust because you're not getting things done as fast as you want. Now they're no longer willing to recommend you. Now they're going to write a negative online review. if you stick to your guns, they may not be happy up front, but what will happen is long term, you're going to have a customer that's happy with the end result. They're happy that there's minimal punch list items to be done after closing, and they are willing to recommend you and willing to give you a positive online review.